Welcome back. We are now less than 5 weeks away from the first contest in the presidential race. It's the Iowa caucuses, of course, and my next guest weighing in on the American voter, writing, quote, as the nation heads into what figures to be a dramatic election year, its defining political characteristic is not love or hate for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. Instead, the most important feature of America's political landscape is a deep and growing ideological divide. Well, it got our attention, so we invited Jerry Seib, the Washington bureau chief of the Wall Street Journal, to join us to talk about his column. And what's interesting about it really is that you back it up with some solid data. You point out the Pew Research data. We'll toss it up on the screen. 20 years ago, 70% of Republicans were more conservative than the median Democrat. Now it's 94%. Same thing in the other party. In 94, 64% of Democrats were more liberal than the median Republican. Now it's up to 92%. Jerry, why the growing ideological divide?
You know, I think it's a combination of factors. I think that there have been a series of issues that have kind of driven the parties apart. At the moment, the key ones are probably gay marriage, climate change, policies on guns. You've also, though, had a sorting out in the two parties. You've had conservative Democrats become Republicans. You've had moderate Republicans either become Democrats or kind of go away entirely. And it's left a center of the political spectrum that seems, in Washington at least, a little depopulated and certainly quieter. I think the other thing that's happened is that we think of this in terms of what's happened in Washington, what the politicians are doing. The numbers that you just talked about are really where Americans are, and I think Americans themselves have become more ideologically divided, and that's reflected in what's happened in the political system. So I think you have a combination of forces. It's been underway slowly. It's very apparent when you step back and look at it, as we just did, over a 20-year time frame. And
there's a dichotomy on what's important to voters in each party, and in fact, your own newspaper did some research on this. Here's the latest Wall Street Journal NBC News polling data. What's important to Republicans and Democrats are really different here. National security and terrorism for the GOP, job creation and economic growth for the Dems. And the GOP is looking for a bold and strong leader. Democrats tend to want somebody diplomatic and inclusive. Are these themes, Jerry, visible on the campaign trail?
Oh, I think so. You've certainly seen, in particular, the rise of terrorism and national security in the Republican primary debate over the last 6 weeks or so. I mean, that's a very marked change. But I think you've also seen the way the candidates themselves are reacting. I mean, the forces now are pulling Republicans to the right and Democrats to the left. And so you've seen Hillary Clinton, for example, adopt sort of more liberal policies on trade and taxes than you would have expected her to, and that some centrist Democrats would have thought Hillary Clinton would embrace earlier. And you've had candidates like Donald Trump, who's not really an ideological conservative, move to the right because he knows that's where the party is going on things like gun policy, the NRA, even on immigration to some extent, and on tax policy as well. And so you can feel the forces pulling the primary voters pulling the candidates apart. I don't think this necessarily means the center is shrinking. I think it means that the activism is on the right wing and the left wing of the political spectrum, and the apathy is really in the center of the spectrum right now.
And is this increasing ideological divide also doing something else, sort of creating some unique political anger out there?
Yeah, well, I think it's a self-fulfilling. It's a cycle, really. I think what's happened is that the anger that is there most prominently on the ideological wings, again, on the left and on the right. And what they're angry about is sort of the dysfunction of the political system. But that activates and energizes the people on the spectrums. It kind of just discourages people in the middle, or at least that's what the numbers suggest, and makes them kind of check out of the political process. So that becomes a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The only people who are really engaged are in the ideological wings, and the people in the center check out. Well, that's the system you get, and to some extent here in Washington, where I live, that's what you've seen over the last 10 years.
Yeah, and sometimes we sort of wonder, is there a political center somewhere?
Yeah, well, there is. It's out there. It's just not very loud right now. And to some extent, Donald Trump may be actually radicalizing the center, and we'll see how that plays out a little bit. But right now, centrists are kind of discouraged, and I think they are checking out of the process to some extent.
Provocative column in the opinion section of the Wall Street Journal today. Jerry Seib, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.